Hi, everyone. Welcome to Spill the Tea Radio, where we interview awesome singers, songwriters, and those who influence their lives. Spill the Tea Radio explores the journey, creativity, and inspiration behind the songs. My next guest earned her master's degree in music from Berklee College of Music in Valencia, Spain. She is a Canadian Billboard-charting recording artist who, as an alternative soul singer-songwriter, has been entertaining audiences professionally for over a decade. Her latest self-titled release debuted on the Canadian iTunes Top 200 R&B Soul album, charting in at number 5. 5 tracks from that album were finalists in the John Lennon Songwriting Competition in 4 different categories, with one winning the grand prize in the pop category. So, let's spill the tea with Avery Raquel. Welcome, Avery.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Let's discuss the song that won the competition. And I've asked singer-songwriters, I've asked producers, I've asked agents, when do you know that you have a hit song? Now, deep in my mind, the winner obviously was a great song to be in competition with hundreds and hundreds of other songs, and it won. So when you wrote that song, did you feel that is like, oh, this is the one? I know I've got a hit on my hands. Like, did you feel that way? Or was it just, oh, it's another really good song. I really put my heart and soul into it, like I do all my other songs, but you didn't have a special connection to it.
Right. Well, at the time, this was when I wrote it, it was deep into COVID. And so I think it was 2020. And in the month of May in 2020, I was doing a songwriting challenge for myself where I wrote 3 to 4 songs a week for the whole month of May. And it was really emotionally draining, but it was so good because I got so many songs out of it. But in that time I wrote deep in my mind. And for me, for whatever reason, um, I know that I'm gonna have a deep, meaningful connection to a song that I write when I cry while I write it. Um, and so this
It's a
was
good
one of those,
indication.
yeah, this was one of those songs where like just what I had to say was making myself cry. And the song itself is, I mean, I wanted to make it ambiguous in a way that anybody could connect to it. And really, it's just about learning how to love yourself before giving that love to other people. And at the time, I was just kind of exiting a relationship, and I was like, "What do I do now?" And just like I don't feel like I have the energy to get into another one and give my love to other people because I need to figure out how to appreciate myself. And even today, I need to take my own advice. But still, it's like yeah, I have a very deep connection with this song. And also it was to do with kind of just like mental health and knowing that there's nothing that I can do about COVID being a thing and I have no control over that. So I might as well learn some little self-love techniques while I'm isolated, you know? So just, doing little things to care for myself and not giving too much of my air and energy to people who
Mhm.
constantly ask for it, and making myself a priority. So that's how I kind of knew I'd have like a deep connection with the song because I literally sobbed while I wrote it. hmm
I don't know if anybody told you this before, Avery, but there are music schools you can go to that are a lot closer than Spain. Why did you choose Spain?
Um, I mean, Valencia is beautiful. I wanted to kind of navigate the European scene a little bit, the music scene over there, and just kind of engulf myself in a new culture. I think that was kind of the most important part. I mean, Canada will always be here. Toronto's always going to be here. I can always come back. But doing something like this, I might not get the chance to do it again. And once you're over there, it's so cheap and easy to travel within Europe. So like within that year, I went to 8 countries and like just traveled around. For the weekend, I'd hop over to London, England, just for fun because it was 30 euros round trip to fly. So it's like I mean, I just wanted something to do with my life that would force me out of my comfort zone, and it certainly did. And Spain was just lovely. People, the food, the atmosphere, the music. I learned a lot about flamenco and other forms of Spanish music of being over there. And yeah, I don't know. Spain in particular wasn't necessarily a bucket list thing for me, but I'm just so thrilled that I was able to do it.
Let's talk about the I'll call it the condition that you mentioned where you hear music and you see colors.
Mhm.
I think that is so cool. Help us understand how that works.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people who have it, especially creatives, but it's not really talked about a whole lot. Um, and I didn't even know that I had it until I was 18, I think. I just thought this was something everybody had. Because how would I know any different? I mean, and it's not just music for me. I see days of the week as colors, months as colors, certain people are colors, and then it was music for sure, but I just without even having like a theory background growing up. This is what I saw. And then learning the terms in school. And then I'm like, oh, this does connect. But the thing is like, how am I also to know when I'm going to classes and teachers saying this chord in this song adds such a beautiful color? And I'm like, yeah, it does. But like, I mean that. But do you really mean that? And so it's like this whole thing. And so growing up, I just like always thought everybody had this. And then it wasn't until my first year of ear training at Humber, when my teacher was like, because noticed I was struggling and I had these associations, but I was just kind of like, they're probably getting in the way. And then I talked to him and he's like, no, it's like, sounds like you have synesthesia. You should go check it out. I'm like, Gazoon Like, what did you just say? And so went home to my parents and I told them about it, and they were like, okay. But then I got tested with this woman who's a specialist at McMaster University. Her name's Daphne Moore. And it turns out it was, in fact, synesthesia, which kind of maybe answered a lot of unanswered questions for my parents as I was growing up as a child. Um, and yeah, and then I learned that so many other people have this. Billy Joel, I think, has it. I know Billie Eilish does for sure. Lady Gaga might. I think Joni Mitchell did too, which would make sense because of the
Mhm.
paintings. Um, and yeah, so many creatives, but there's over 80 different types of synesthesia. Some people will hear someone's name and like taste muffins or something like
Wow.
it's so many different things. And so I went to a conference at Oxford University where I got to present my thesis back in May. And it was with the UK Synesthesia Association. And it was such an enriching experience. I met so many cool people, so many synesthetes as well who have this, and other musicians. They see timbral aspects of music as colors and shapes and textures, even like saying like they see a pink fuzzy square when they hear a certain piano sound. So it's like so interesting. And that was what I was doing to create music while I was there, is using color as an inspirational tool in the creation of my music process.
So when you hear a C chord, you you interpret that as a color?
So I don't, for me, it's not pitches, but it's chord
Okay.
qualities. So major seventh chords are sunset orange, minor seventh chords are dark blue, diminished seventh chords are green, dominant seventh chords are red. Certain modes are certain colors too, like Lydian, due to the sharp 11, for whatever reason, is purple to me. If I add a sharp 11 to a major seventh chord, it's going to sound sunset orange with purple. So, and it's all in my mind's eye. I'm not projecting. There are people who project it in front of them, but this is all in my mind's eye. So if I asked you to picture a red square, you probably could and you know exactly what it looks like. People have certain levels of how strong their mind's eye is. Some people have aphantasia where they have no mind's eye at all. And so for me, it's all in my mind's eye, especially if I close my eyes, it's quite vivid. And so it's all chord qualities and different tone aspects changing the overall sound of something. Some people do have perfect pitch with synesthesia. Part of me thinks that would probably drive me nuts. Um, I might go a little crazy if I had that. Um, and I'm kind of grateful I don't. But yeah, so the color associations have just always been there, and now I know what they mean, I guess.
When that happens to you, when you say you hear that seventh chord and that gives you a color, do you relate that chord, that color to an inspiration for a song or for a lyric or for a feeling that you're having?
Sure. So one of the songs for my thesis was called "The Sun Sets Here," and I wrote it with another synesthete and colleague at my school in Berkeley. And we were trying to emulate as many sunset colors as we possibly could. And so all of the chords which also reflect on the lyrics, are trying to paint the scenery of a sunset. And the visual aspects, which I'd love to develop at some point. I'm just not really skilled in the world of animating visuals at the moment. But I would love to relate them to what I'm seeing and what he's seeing and try to show that to people so that they have a strong understanding. But what we were trying to do is make it so that even people who aren't synesthetes can kind of visualize what we were trying to go for in terms of a color scheme and whatnot. So we say it in the lyrics, it's reflected in the chords, and they all kind of coincide. But yeah.
How'd you feel when you found out that you weren't the only one? You thought you were unique, that this was something that just happened to you. How did you feel when you found out there's a bunch of other people that are experiencing this just like me?
I was so excited. I was so excited because I don't know, it's hard to kind of talk to people about this stuff because they don't fully understand. Like, I would go up to my parents and be like, "Mom, like, why is Monday so yellow?" And she'd be like, "What are you saying? Like, what are you talking about, Avery? Like, please." And like just things like that. But at this conference, for example, there's so many people there. I would say like, "This is what I see for this," and they'd be like, "I don't agree, but I totally understand." And I'm like, that's so nice. Like even with like the chords and the colors of what I was showing in my presentation, like one of the other musicians came up to me and he's like, "Yeah, I totally disagree with all of your color choices, but I totally understand where you're coming from." I was like, "Great." Yeah, so it's like a whole thing. Like I don't know. I'm glad to have met those people. Like I'll talk to some people that are just like my friends, and this one's not going to make any sense, but I'm like 6 times 6, 36 is Wednesday. And they're like, "What?" But I tell my synesthete people at the conference, they're like, "Absolutely." Like that, yeah, totally. I'm like, "Great."
Does it ever change, or is 6 times 6 always Wednesday?
That one's always Wednesday.
It's always
Sometimes
Wednesday.
that's Thursday. 5 times 5 is Friday. That's it for those. And then for like some things like people's names, I'll see things so like the name like Lyle, for example, sounds like when you lick an envelope to close it. That's what I see in my head. So many weird little things, but it's an interesting neurological kind of difference, and
You
it's
are a
learning
very
about
interesting young cat, that's for sure.
it.
And let's get into one of the songs that Avery wrote. This song is reminiscent of Avery's love for R&B soul music of the past, but with a more current contemporary pop style. Let's take a listen to singer-songwriter Avery Raquel and her song, Deep in My Mind.
I gave away my heart, perhaps too soon. I don't know what to do. You try to build me up, but I should stay on the ground another day. Maybe weeks or months or even years. 'Cause right now all I've offered you is tears. Everywhere I turn I see love, I see love. Still I've yet to learn how to love myself, and then perhaps I'll finally have some for all those around me. Soon I'll find, buried deep in my mind. Yesterday was swell, and times before, but I need to close some doors. I need some time to grow, some time to learn, some time to finally know if I can find the time to love myself. Then how on earth am I to love somebody else? I have often found I give away everything these days. I've offered up my air. They think they need when I just need to breathe. More of all that air I gave away.
That was Deep in My Mind by Avery Raquel. Avery, you did tell us a little bit about Deep in My Mind and the inspiration behind that song. Uh, did it change meaning for you today? You wrote it a little while ago. Does it mean something different for you today?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think looking back at it, I'm kind of like proud of myself for like where I am at this point and being able to take my own advice in that sense. Yeah, I think the meaning of it has definitely changed. I still feel the same amount of love for that song as I did when I first wrote it. But now it's just kind of like this song is like my child and I love it and it's kind of just like I don't know, it's always going to be like so close to my heart.
Avery, how do people find out more about you? What's the website? What are the socials and the streaming platforms?
Yeah, so everything's Avery Raquel Music. It's on Instagram, on TikTok, on pretty much everything. Twitter, I believe, is real Avery Raquel. Not a lot of people are using Twitter these days. That's okay. But everything else is at Avery Raquel Music. My website is averyraquel.com. And on Spotify, you'll find me at Avery Raquel, Apple Music, Avery Raquel, and all other streaming platforms that you might happen to use.
We have been in conversation with Avery Raquel. Avery, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.